What is up, everybody? Welcome here to Pop Culture Philosophers. I am Rockin Robbie Billups, and it's time to continue Horror Fest here on a Mummy Monday. That's right, Dylan. Mummy Monday, biatches. That's what we're doing. We're kicking it off. We're going to be watching The Mummy's Hand from 1940 tonight. So you can either watch along with me right now, live, or you can do so on the replay. And I will be watching and commentating on the movie. Little bit of trivia that I know, easy to look up, and also just my thoughts. I, of course, love Universal monster films. I love the Mummy films. Last week on Mummy Monday, we covered 1932's Mummy, directed by Carl Freund, starring Boris Karloff, Zita Johann, David Manners, Edward Van Sloan. I love that movie, and I had a lot of fun revisiting it and watching it with you. Now we're doing 1940's The Mummy's Hand. This is not a sequel to The Mummy, but it's more of a reboot in a way. And we'll definitely start talking about that. Instead of Imhotep and Ankhsenamun, it's going to be Ananka and Caris is the mummy. And it's got a different structure. There, of course, were 4 mummy movies in this timeline, if you will. All of them about an hour long. And The Mummy's Hand is the first one. And it's a movie that I really, really like. And I think that it inspires the Stephen Sommers movie even more than most people probably realize. Like, for real. Like, if people watch the Boris Karloff Mummy, but then they watch the Stephen Sommers one, and they're like, well, I see how the story's the same, typically, but there's this adventure aspect to it. Treasure hunting, Indiana Jones. That really starts working here in The Mummy's Hand. And, of course, we will be talking about that. So, when I start the movie, it is literally starting. It's not on the DVD or Blu-ray menu screen. It's not on the initial Universal logo that comes as soon as you hit play. It is literally at 0000 on the movie. And we're going to kick it off, and we're going to start watching The Mummy's Hand. And I'm very excited for this. Like I said, this movie's only like an hour and 6 minutes long or something like that, so it's not going to take long, but we should have a lot of fun. And here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, play. And right now we got the Universal Pictures thing. Dun 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 dun. I like the ones from 1940. They look cool. Gotta handle the volume here. Oh, the title. The Omnibus Staircase. And if you're out there chilling, watching along, or even if you're not watching along, just chat. That's what we're doing. So there's the cast right there. Screenplay, Griffin J. Maxwell Jane. Original story, Griffin J. Original story. That's funny. That's very funny. So this one's directed by Christy Cabani? I don't know. It stars Dick Forain as Steve. Babe is Wallace Ford. Peggy Moran is Marta. George Zucco in an amazing performance as the villain, in my opinion, as Andoheb. And Cecil Kellaway is the great Silvani, but Tom Tyler is Caris, the mummy. And I do want to shout out and say, what's up, Ruben? What's up, Sam? What's up, Billy? What's up, Dylan? I already shouted you out. What's up, Chi-Town Bud? What's up, Samuel? All right, so here you go. So here's a high priest of the Temple of Karnak or something like that. Hill of the Seven Jackals or something. I don't know. You'll hear him. He is going to pass down his office to a new upcoming. So they're in Cairo. It's this like cult. And there's the dude. Evil. You can tell he's evil because he's wearing a fez. That's George Zucco as Andoheb. Andoheb. We'll see it when they say it. I love his performance. He played a villain in a lot of movies in the 40s and 50s. So this one, they basically take the Boris Karloff story, the idea of this love that transcends time. That's kind of lost a little bit in this one. So Caris is totally in love with Ananka, and she dies, and he tries to resurrect her. Now, instead of using incantations and scrolls. In this, there's these things called tana leaves. I do want to point this out. Look at the temple. It doesn't look very Egyptian, does it? It looks more like Olmekish. That's a very most impressive staircase. This channel is like being in a cult. I'm cool with that. So, at the opening of all of these movies, that's a great set. Now, I know that a lot of these temple sets were reused from the James Whale film Green Hell, which was set in South America. In fact, the big final temple that we see is from that. I'm not sure about this one in particular. It seems like it could be. Those staircases maybe definitely show. So this is a high priest who's in charge. So, real quick, the story is that Charis is in love with Ananka. Ananka dies. This is 3,000 years ago in ancient Egypt. He tries to use the tana leaf to bring her back. He gets caught. They're going to flash back and show all that stuff using actual footage from the mummy, just putting in Tom Tyler when appropriate. So instead, he gets cursed and he gets mummified alive, and he has these tana leaves. They're about to tell the story right here. And they have to now give him 3 tana leaves every night of the month on the full moon in order to keep his heart beating. This is footage from the mummy, the Boris Karloff one. You can even see Boris Karloff in a scene when they start showing some of the stuff. It's going to be like a wide shot. They shot Tom Tyler for some of the close-ups. The music's really good. So before I get too off track here, Ananka dies. Charis tries to resurrect her. He instead, there's Tom Tyler right there. Look at that badass leopard print shoal or whatever the hell he's got. Whatever that is. That's fun. I think it's cool. God, I love these movies. That music is freaking awesome. So, yep. That's actually Boris Karloff, I'm pretty sure. And then they reshot a close-up with Tom. So instead of a scroll in that chest, it's tana leaves. Tana leaves is it's an extinct plant. And there you go. 3 leaves every month on the night of the full moon to keep Charis's mummy alive. They give him 9 to bring him back to life, give him movement, and they control him, and they use him to protect the temple of Ananka. So this is a succession of priests for the temple of Karnak or whatever, or the order of Karnak, whatever they call it. And now he's giving the story to the new guy, who is going to be George Zuko, who eventually also falls in love with Marta, I believe, in the movie. Straight up footage from the mummy once more. Except for that one. Now that's the Charis. Now that's Tom Tyler, right? That's not Boris Karloff. That's obviously. They did that at least. But that's probably not Boris Karloff in the wrappings there, but it was definitely from the movie. It's even his face still on the sarcophagus. And if you give him 12 tana leaves, he goes crazy. And he's uncontrollable. He's a monster. So this is... when I first started watching the Mummies movies, when I first watched the first Mummy movie when I was a kid, I was kind of disappointed that he wasn't the mummy for longer. That's something I really liked about this one in particular. Now there's 3 other movies that come after it. Was it Ghosts, Curse, and Tomb, in whatever order? They all kind of do the exact same thing. They all almost start with this same idea of a high priest passing his his commission to the next young guy. In fact, in the next movie, it's George Zuko who plays the old guy, even though spoilers, he dies at the end of this film. He is the elderly high priest in the beginning of the next film. And also in the one after that, which is weird, but whatever. So for 3,000 years, Charis has been in this tomb, and these dudes have been giving him these tana leaves, and as long as Ananka's tomb is safe, and they keep him alive just in case someone tries to go fumbling around. Well, guess what's going to happen in this movie? Zuko right there, though. What an amazing actor. Just look at what he's giving. This is 1940 horror melodrama. That's what Universal did, and that's what they did best. And so he owns it, and he handles it so well. He takes his role so seriously, and he does it so well. It's fantastic. So Carice, though, in the movie, we're going to find out, is actually kind of addicted to these tana leaves. Like, he wants more. He wants, obviously, you could say it's like a drug addiction thing, and that's cool, and you can see it from there, that aspect. But I also think it's more of a lust for freedom type thing. And actually, if you really think about it, that's why most people wind up with addictions. Is initially it's something that gives a semblance of more freedom, looseness. He's making the tea. I love his overacting. I'm so old. I'm an old Egyptian. He doesn't look like an old Egyptian. He looks like an old white guy. But anyway, it's 1940. So the reason why they did this movie, so there was the phase in the 30s, and that's like the top-notch horror stuff in the 30s from Universal. We're talking Bride of Frankenstein, Invisible Man, Frankenstein, Dracula, The Mummy. Lots of great films in that era. Dracula's Daughter, Werewolf of London. And then they had some success in 39 and 40 because they did Son of Frankenstein, the third Frankenstein film, the final one with Boris Karloff. And that was successful. And so then they did The Invisible Man Returns, and that was a success. So they were like, well, hell, let's do it to The Mummy. And this mummy is the shambling running around. Now, in the next three movies, it's Lon Chaney Jr. In a, let's be honest, half-assed effort. And I think that's putting it mildly, for instance. But I like Tom Tyler as the mummy, as Carice. So now he's explaining the rules in a very Gremlins-esque fashion. These movies get right to the point. I love them. But the atmosphere is still there. The music's there too. So Universal's wanting to make these successful things come out of the success of Son of Frankenstein, but they don't want to spend money. That's why they reused the set from James Whale's Green Hell. That's why the movie's probably only just over an hour long. That's probably why they reused footage from the Karloff film. And it's also why pretty much the entire score is ripped off from Son of Frankenstein. They just reused the music that was originally composed for Son of Frankenstein. No lie. Son of Frankenstein, I would say, is probably a better film, but I really, really do love The Mummy's Hand. Now, the other three ones, they have their ups and downs. I like the one that takes place at the plantation. Is that Ghost? I have no idea. I get them jumbled up together, the Lon Chaney ones. But The Mummy's Hand, to me, stands out. This is really fun. It adds a more adventurous aspect to the Mummy franchise. It adds the idea of the shambling around mummy to the franchise, which lasted for a very long time. So there's Dick Foran, and Wallace Ford. They have a very Abbott and Costello type vibe in this film. Probably one of the reasons why I really like it. You know, there is an Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy. We were going to do it for Mummy Monday, but then I decided to take a break on the Monday night that the Cowboys are going to be playing. Honestly, though, at this point, I don't know why. But in that one, it's still the Carice myth, but it's Clarice. It's Clarice is the mummy's name. It's a little bit different. And it's silly, and it's okay. But I'll be honest with you. This movie is not as good as The 32 Mummy by Karl Freund. But it is by far the best of the four that came in the 40s. And I like it. And it establishes this more Indiana Jones adventurous type tone to the franchise. But even though it had a low budget, it still filmed incredibly well. These movies were filmed so well. There's a little poopsie. All right, so you're about to see that Steve's about to find a vase, an Egyptian vase that holds a clue to the temple, to the location of the Temple of Ananka. That's how they get introduced. So Steve is basically an archaeologist, but he's kind of down on his luck. He can't get things financed. So this guy, he has a fez. Not evil, though. Maybe it's because of the way that the tassel's like towards the back instead to the side. Now, this dude that's playing that guy, you'll notice him in almost, I think he's in all three of the first three Frankenstein films. I really do. I think that's the, first of all, in Bride, I think that's the dude's, the dude, like his daughter in the movie is the one that Frankenstein monster kills. I'll tell you what, though. I think Wallace Ford does amazing in this. He's also the lead in Freaks, Todd Browning's Freaks, so don't forget him in that one. But all of these guys had successful careers. They did films in the 40s and 50s, and then they eventually wound up into television. Like the great Zolvani, who you'll meet, the magician Cecil Kellaway, wound up in shows like Bewitched, for instance. But what's really cool is when you get into movies, especially studio from the 30s and 40s, especially the 40s and the 50s, you start recognizing some of these people in bit parts on things like Twilight Zone and Star Trek and sitcoms like Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie and stuff like that. So he's like, this vase is interesting. So he gets his buddy Babe. I love that the dude's name is Babe as well. Takes him to this doctor. I don't even remember this guy's name, but I like this guy's performance. He's got this weird, kind of creepy, but very like into it, super nerdy type thing. Even when he gets got later on, and the mummy's being brought to life in front of him, you'll see the scene, and the mummy's getting brought to life in front of him, and he's just fast. He's like, I can hear his heart beating. It's beating faster. It's beating faster, and then he just gets got. He just gets killed. It's crazy. So he takes it to this dude and says, hey, man, I think I found something. He's like, I think it found I think this tells you where the Temple of Ananka is. And so then they go to meet the head dean or whatever of the college or whatever the hell, this dude is. He's in charge of the shit. And it's bitch-ass George Zuko, the high priest. I love his performance. His delivery is great. I love it. A native bazaar. Watch this shit, though, man. This dude is such an asshole. So they're showing him the vase to be like, hey, do we got something? Is it real? And he's telling them that it's a fake. I was there. Weird stretch, bro. You think he paid $85 for that, or $84? In 1940, that's pretty crazy. That's a lot of money. Babe Jensen really makes this movie pop and sizzle. What's up, Fable? What's up, JP Comex 10? Anybody remember Creature Feature? Saturday late night, old school horror movies, the best. No, I don't. I used to watch, was it Joe Bob Briggs? And Svengoolie nowadays. I like Svengoolie, but it's a bit too cheesy. I like a little bit more of a, I don't know. What was the one Elvira did? I used to watch that. Here we go. This dude's about to dick move. He drops the vase and breaks it. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I hope he pays him the 84 or whatever bucks. Babe's trying to make money. He's such a hustler. I love him. He's so funny. What's up, Easy Reader? See, he already knew because he's got that dude who was there at the bazaar pretending to be a beggar, but he works for this dude. So that's Steve, of course. That's Dick Foran. We'll just call him Dick. So Dick wound up, he did some TV work, but he was actually doing like comedy musical westerns. Like, believe it or not, young man, in the 40s, that was a thing. In the 30s and 40s, that was a thing that was very popular. Comedy musical westerns. It's a badass amulet. I'd like to get a replica of that. Babe's trying to hustle drinks at the bar by doing magic tricks, but he's about to get got because he's going to meet the great Silvani, who was an actual stage magician. This is my poopsie. So that's the little doll that he bought. This is just a weird bit that goes throughout the movie, makes it funny away. Look at that sailor dude. It's just, I've never that sailor dude behind me. It just cracked me up. The one in the background. I've never really noticed him. So he keeps going. They're trying to get this thing funded to go and find the Ananka tomb, and nobody will fund it because he's kind of a washed-up archaeologist. He's kind of down on his luck. You see what I'm saying about how, in a way, this inspires the Stephen Sommers movie, which with Brendan Fraser, probably even more so than the Karloff one, at least as far as atmosphere and tone. It's a little bit different, though. It's not, it's kind of the same, but they kind of flip some things around. So we find out that Babe is basically a con artist. So Steve is an archaeologist, legitimate, but he's down on his luck, probably because he's best friends with a fucking con artist. There's Silvani. He's a stage magician. But Babe doesn't know that. So he's about to try to swindle him out of a drink, and he's going to get got in the worst way. Steve's trying to tell Babe, but Babe's not listening. Silvani, that actor, that's Cecil Kellaway. Like I said, he was in Bewitched. He wound up in a few episodes of Twilight Zone. So we've gotten the legend of the mummy, but we haven't seen the mummy yet. But we're only 20 minutes into the film. Think about this. We're 20 minutes into an hour-long film. Here's what's even interesting. The next film spends like its first 10 minutes recapping this movie. What's up, God Tank? How are you doing, brother? Like I said, that poopsie, that's a weird bit. Uh-huh. I love the nervous look. First time that is it this one? So I like the fun nature of this movie. So it's got the universal horror aspects, but it's got a really great cast of interesting characters that have great chemistry together. It's legitimately funny. It's got, to me, I think some witty dialogue and some great delivery and pacing of scenes, comedic timing. You're not very observant. I love it. That's what I've been trying to tell you, buddy. You're getting conned. You know, they say you can't hustle a hustler, but apparently you can. Or maybe Babe found out that you can't hustle a hustler. I love that. Americans, I take it. So he just swindles this dude. And he's like, Americans, I take it. I love it. Then they find out that, yeah, he's this successful stage magician. An illusionist. It's an illusion, Michael. We will talk about Tom Tyler, but we've barely seen him so far. This is basically Steve and Babe's movie. And then Marta gets involved, and that's going to be Silvani's daughter and Steve's love interest. And then George Zuko's character of Endoheb falls in love with her instead of the mummy being into her because she's like the reincarnation of whatnot, blah, blah, blah. They do get into the reincarnation aspect later on, which leads to a really creepy scene in the last one where the Ananka mummy like comes back to life, and this like, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Just focus on the mummy's hand. No, but it's these characters, and I think they work. So now they're going to try to get the great Silvani, since they're like, this is a successful stage magician. We're going to get him to fund this hunt for Ananka's temple or tomb. And look who's there, though. Yep. Fucking spies. Spies are all around me. Spies in every county. But here's a great scene. What do we see there? It's subtle, but it's nice. They're pulling down Silvani's marquee, and Marta's packing up. Why are they leaving? Because they're not being successful. They're not having much success in Cairo. So we just got introduced to Marta, Peggy Moran. Andoheb. So Andoheb is going to fall for her, and that's problematic, but it's fine. It's, back in the day. Notice, though, his tassel and his fez is kicked to the side. That means he's a villain. Let's see if that holds true throughout these movies. If it's in the back, you're fine, but if it's cocked to the side, you're a villain. But he's going to now convince her that these two dudes, these charlatans, are going to con her father out of money, and the reason why they're leaving is because they're not making money in Cairo. Now, these movies, I guess they were successful enough to make so many, but they were just cookie cutting them out, and riding a trend, but they were never the most popular monster movies from Universal. Wolfman, Frankenstein, Dracula, these were way more successful and popular properties, even Creature from the Black Lagoon. But they had to have made something in order to keep doing them, but I guess that's why they kept the costs low. So the mummy movies are not the most popular, and they're not the best. Let's be honest. The first one is a pretty landmark film, I think, but this one is a solid film. I'm not going to spend the whole stream though apologizing for this film. What that creepy what was that? Did you notice that? What was the way he what was that? Weird move. Andoheb. Andoheb. Could you imagine if they just allowed people asking and begging for money into shops now? Well, they just signed the contract. Here's a great magic trick. I was fascinated with this when I first saw this film. I was just like, this is really good. My favorite, Babe looks at his finger like, could you imagine if you could just pour liquor out of your finger at any given moment? You would be wasted all the time. At least I would. Now, I know how they did that, for the film. But how did the magician do that? It's in his. You see it. That's why he's holding his. So does he just have some liquor in a squeeze tube run up his arm just in case? And then we get a bar fight. The grand screams. It's music from Son of Frankenstein. It seems like it's nice that it kicks up a notch, but it seems a bit too eerie of music for a bar fight scene. But that's a wild-ass bar fight. This dude tried to kill him. So now you have the idea of these people trying to stop them from discovering this tomb. That's another thing that we saw in the Mummy film by Stephen Sommers, starring Brendan Fraser and others. This is like podunk fucking white dude that's got a bar in Cairo. I don't know. The Egyptian stuff I don't think was as popular in the 40s as it was in the 30s, but I guess it was still there. But not quite like it was in 32. Maybe that's one of the reasons why these movies weren't as popular. And he shows up drunk, and he's like, by the way, unpack everything, because we are staying here. I'm a treasure hunter now. It's a great performance. He's drunk. He's embarrassed that he made this deal. He knows that she's not going to approve. Does he just keep a fishbowl filled with water under his hat just in case? It does get obnoxious, though. This guy is like nothing but tricks. It's like his whole bit is just the tricks. Like, oh, look at all these tricks I got. Everything's everywhere. Billy, I hope you have those lyrics copyrighted. Someone could steal them. He's doing a nice drunk slur. Maybe he's really wasted. He's like, I gotta do this fucking mummy movie. We're like 30 minutes into the film, no mummy yet. It takes a while, but when it happens, it happens. But I like these characters. I like this story. I'm engaged. I'm invested. What's up, Comic Crazy? So this dude literally does, like, okay, so if you're a stage magician, especially in 1940 in Cairo, I guess you just keep all your tricks set and ready to go at any moment. You got like a tube of liquor coming down your finger. You've got a fish bowl filled with water under your hat. You got a lit candle. That's how you light your cigarettes. You pull a lit candle out. Yeah, we get it, guys. He's a fucking magician. We get it. He's an illusionist. It's an illusion, Michael. I really think my love for these old movies, especially these Universal Monster movies, are one of the reasons why I started smoking cigarettes back in the day. And vaping is cool, but it doesn't quite have the cool idea of, let's go into this room. Let's have a cigarette. Yes, jolly old chap. Ooh, it's a hot one tonight, is it not? Have some brandy. It'll make you feel better. You feel a little wheezy. Can we bring that back? Can I? Where do I buy a smoking jacket? The best pipe weed in the Shire. Just got into a trunk. It's goofy, it's silly, it's funny. Now he's gone. But she knows all the tricks. It's not real, Billy. Nothing's real. It's only real if you choose it to be real. There's a little poopsie again. It's not trying to spoil things. I hope you've seen this film. But all the heroes pretty much survive. But what I like about the next film is that they all got like first up. Like Steve and Babe are as old men. So here's something to start thinking about. This movie is set in 1940. This is important to know. By the way, she just busts up into these people. Now, she thinks that they swindled her father, and I understand that. But she just pulls out this gun, shoots a hole up in their doorway, shaped like a heart. She can get away with that. In 1940 in Cairo? It's a crazy world. I like how calm Steve is after she just shot up the door to the bathroom that he was in. Shire Kush, hell yeah. We already spent the money. So there she goes. She just drops the bombshell that was all the money they had. So they better find something. She literally just said, "You're not going to trap me into anything like that." And he goes, "Well, who said you're going?" She goes, "I'm going." Didn't she just said, "You're not going to get me to go on a trip like that"? But then she's going. So weird. What? Now we're stuck with the dame. Damn, babe. Nice music there. That's really nice. So they're digging. They're going to find it. They're going to find something. We're finally going to start seeing a little Caris action. We found some coins, some beads. So it seems like they've been digging. They haven't really found too much. Obviously, the investors are getting antsy. What's up with Steve's hat, by the way? It's a weird hat. He has an exceptionally big head, by the way. So maybe they were trying to hide that. Like, look at this dude's head. It's like freaking huge. I've always noticed that about this film. This dude's got a big head. He kind of looks like a Pop, like a Funko Pop. They find a skeleton. What a horrible fate. Or they were killed by the high priest of Karnak. That dude say something about a hot dog? There's the landslide. We try to be subtle with you. Before we send the mummy after you, we're going to cause a landslide. Or did he blow it up? Anyway, they found the entrance to the tomb. This is going to get Caris and Andoheb involved. So I think the structure of the movie's fine. In Act 1, you get the idea of what's going on, the backstory of Caris and Ananka, and that she's got a tomb out there. Then you get introduced to these characters of Steve and Babe, and then Marta and Silvani, and then Andoheb, of course, going on. And I think it's building good. Like, it's building up these characters. It's building up this story. It's building up this lore. And it's doing a great job so far. And now we're about to really get into it. So now they find the tomb. So they're like, well, we got to get this fucking mummy now. We got to. So they think they found Ananka's tomb, but they haven't. They found Caris's tomb. It's a really nice piece of set. Dope. I really like the look of Egyptian sarcophagus. Sarcophagi? It isn't sealed because I got to feed this dude every month. So we're about to meet the mummy, Caris. That's Tom Tyler. Tom Tyler was a leading actor, a leading man. That's actually pretty good. I think it looks good. It doesn't look as good as the Karloff makeup, but it's pretty substantially cool. They're literally ripping off lines from The Mummy now. So Tom Tyler, that's a great little shot of the wolf howling. Tom Tyler was a leading man in Westerns. He was actually in the Captain Marvel film serial and the Phantom serial. So he played Captain Marvel and Phantom. He was the first actors to do so. He's playing the Mummy in this one. This is the only movie he plays the Mummy in. Jack Pierce was still at Universal. He did actual makeup for the up-close scenes like what we just saw. Not as sophisticated or as painstakingly of a process as what Karloff went through. But in the shots where he was going to be like a little bit wider, like wider shots where he's going to be further in the distance, they just made like a mask to try to cut down on costs. But I think the makeup looks cool, and you're going to see something really cool when you see him up close. They went in and painstakingly painted his eyes black frame by frame on every close-up. And it has a really cool, chilling, eerie effect. I like the howling. It really adds to a nice atmosphere here. We're turning it now from an adventure comedy into a little bit more of a horrifying type movie, at least for 1940. That's a good looking mummy. Tom Tyler has a really good, like, movement as the mummy. Karloff, we didn't get to see him move as the mummy, but he had great, like, subtle movements as Imhotep, right? Caris, played by Tom Tyler, is my favorite mummy. Like, he does this, like, kind of thing. It's really good. And Lon Chaney just kind of, like, did this. You know, like that Glenn Strange Frankenstein monster type thing. So I was watching this one YouTube video, and they were like, so if it takes 3 tana leaves a month to keep this dude's heart beating over 3,000 years, it was like 140 or 80,000 tana leaves for an extinct plant. So they just have all these dried-ass leaves somewhere. They never run out in any of these movies. But these movies were shot and lit so well that even when Mel Brooks did Young Frankenstein and made the stylistic choice to film it in black and white so that it would match up with these films, there was nobody that really knew how to light the films this way. There's always a superstitious, like helper or something for the good guys in these films. And it's usually a stereotypical type role. Now, professor, like, dudes all like blown away. Oh, dude, you're here, Andoheb. See, this is the scene I was talking about earlier. So this dude's about to get got. He's Caris' first victim. But his curiosity and his just dumbfounded scientificness, right? Like, he's so curious. He just stays so fascinated with what's going on. He's not like, he realizes that he's in a threatening situation, but he's too fascinated with it to really understand that he's in danger. And it's a really funny scene to me. He's got a pulse. This is absurd. It's fantastic. So what does 9 tana leaves do? It means he's going to wake the F up. 3 a month to keep his heart beating on the night of the full moon. But if you give him 9, this motherfucker's about to get up and wreck some shit. It's beating faster. Reminds me of that scene in Reefer Madness, Play Faster. But that's a decent mummy makeup right there up close. Let me go. Oh, look at him. Now that right there, you notice that they are literally taking the film and coloring in his eyes so that they're all black. It's always a great scene when the villain looks into a beam of light shining right on his eyes and then says something very melodramatically. The bandages don't look as nice as Karloff's, but he actually had to move. He actually had to move around, and he's never seen outside of those bandages except for in those flashback cutscenes in the beginning. So we got our first victim death, and that's the end of Act 2. Maybe not quite yet. We're not at the end of Act 2 quite yet, are we? So now he's getting his henchmen to put tana leaf fluid in somebody's tent because Carice is drawn to it. It's like a drug. It's this elixir of life, and I think it's a drive towards freedom and autonomy, right? Yep. Savani doing more fucking magic tricks. Yeah, we get it, guy. You're an illusionist. Anyway, so I'm like, if it takes 3 a month to keep his heart beating and 9 to like bring him back and control him, how often? Like, do you have to keep, like, if he gets this tana fluid, does he hit 12 now? Because he went, how long ago did he kill this guy? Is this the same night? Is this the next night? It's like Gremlins. The rules are there, but they kind of don't always make sense. This dude literally tried to swallow that. That's goofy. But in the subsequent movies, they just kind of ignore these. But look at that. That's a good-looking mummy. It's not Karloff, obviously, but it's good. I like it. So he's telling him right there. He's like, if you want to be able to use that leg and that arm, and that's why he's like this, because he can't use them, because he hasn't have enough tana leaves. So the mummy in this is, even though he is the lover of Ananka, he is just a puppet of these high priests in these films. You know, the mummy wrappings do look a little bit loose there, and you can tell that it's a jumpsuit or whatever, but it doesn't look as bad as Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy. That shit looks really bad. An A and an N, of course. Maybe her tomb is where it says her name. It's a novel idea. Look at Marta figuring out the obvious ass shit that these archaeologists can't. Hey, babe. Silvani. So that's an actual dialect that these actors are saying in these films. So it's like, I don't remember what it's called, but it's not how people talked. But that whole, let me tell you now, you come back here 2 times and I'll give you 1 tomorrow. You know, that kind of a thing. People didn't really talk like that, but it was some kind of a thing that they did on stage and in film. I don't remember what it's called. I'll have to try to remember to look that up, but I love it. That's right. You just tell me, man. If anybody knows what that dialect is called, that accent, just let us know. Yeah, you really think about it, we're already almost done with this film. Crazy, isn't it? The death is just now starting. But I like the tent. I like the ambiance. I like the music, even though once again, Son of Frankenstein. Man, I got pee real bad. Right now we're at 48:02. Fable. 48:06. So Fable, you're watching along. That's cool. It's always nice to know that people are actually watching along. Right there. That's somebody had to take each frame of film and color in his eyes. But it has a really cool effect. At least in this one, you're actually seeing Steve and Babe and Silvani work. Usually in these other films, you know, we saw it in the beginning of this one. Like, they always get, like, the help to do it, you know? So they're just like, ooh, you know? Like David Manners, you know, in The Mummy, 1932, was like, ooh, it's so hot digging in that tomb. I'm like, bitch, you just sat outside under an umbrella watching people dig. Now, they didn't dig to get to the tomb, but once they get into the tomb, they're like, all right, everybody else is gone. We can handle it from here. Doesn't that dude have a big head? Like a fucking rather huge head? Like unusually large? Is that just me? Another thing about back in the day that I couldn't have handled is how high they have to pull their pants up. I can't live like that, man. I can't live like that. Nobody should. Babe's a little bit of a racist. He's dead. So now there's the second murder. I like how their like colleague and the dude that's like helping them lead this dig dies, and they're just like playing magic tricks in the next scene. Petrie, that's his name. How funny. Like, what's up with Babe's pants? Babe has got, like, they're so high up that his belt is lower than the pants are. So you get this, like, weird portion of fabric above the belt of pants. You got, like, an inch of pants above the belt, which is a weird fucking look. Mummy looks cool, though. He's got the best shamble of all these mummies. Tom Tyler, ladies and gentlemen. I want to say that the Captain Marvel serial was the very first superhero serial we got, which means that Tom Tyler may have been the very first on-screen comic book superhero when he did the Adventures of Shazam serial. And I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. Great music, once again, stolen from Son of Frankenstein, a way to cut costs. Nick wants to know when and what's the next live commentary. It's the next Mummy movie next Monday night at 8 p.m. Central. Of course that would happen. That one is the Mummy's Tomb. Mummy's Tomb is next. Babe cares so much. So this is the Ghostbusters mummy figure. When Ghostbusters did their, like, classic monsters. Pretty dope, isn't it? I love that figure. It's all my mummy stuff. So overkill. 3 lanterns, and they got a fire burning. It's overkill. So we got a love story brewing. Of course. Head over heels in love with you. Would you mind if I said you're a swell fella? She gives him a little peck. This dude's got a weird, weird large head. Babe's being killed by some curse? No, he's just trying that stupid-ass magic trick again. Doesn't realize you don't actually have to swallow it. Abbott and Costello. You don't usually would associate a wolf howl with a mummy film, but I use it extensively in this film. And I guess it's the jackal. The jackals of Egypt. It is the hill of 7 jackals, right? So I thought that Kellaway just did a really good drunk accent. No, he just sounds like that. I really think he's drunk. He's like, I gotta do this fucking mummy film, y'all. That's a great shamble. That's a good-looking mummy. It's way better than the Lon Chaney ones coming up. I'll be honest, y'all. But they still have things I like about them. But this is the best of the 4. That's a great shot. I use that in the intro. In the 40s, though, one of the things that Universal Horror was severely lacking was... Now, you notice they don't do the blacking out of the eyes in scenes like this. Only the ones that are really up close. We're about to get another one, which is basically the one that we just saw. It's the same shot. Right there. It's a creepy shot. They gonna kill Savani? I think they blacked out a little bit inside of his mouth, too. And the mummy steals Marta. Now, this is a... So they don't get Silvani, but he steals Marta. Now, the image of the mummy holding the woman like that and carrying her is something that's going to come back, and it's the ending of the 3rd one. I think that's Ghost. I think it's Tomb Ghost Curse. I think it is. But they actually walk into the swamp. We'll get to that. That's the one that takes place, I think, in southern United States, or I don't know. They jump scenes. They jump, like, the ending of one movie that I'm talking about is in one state. And then the next movie, they come out of the swamp and they're in a different state. So I guess they like went through some kind of underground swamp network or something. They went through the green, you know? It is creepy looking, Fable. I mean, it's not perfect, and that's why it's kind of like jittery, but it adds a real creep factor to it. I mean, he looks fine with even just his normal eyes when you see him on the mid shot. That's cool too, but there's something about that. Now, they completely go away from that in the next movies. It's just a mask. Chaney didn't want to go through extensive makeup. Eventually, the Wolfman was just a mask, and you can tell because it doesn't look as good. Like in something like Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein or House of Frankenstein. It doesn't look as good as it does in 1941's Wolfman, which was made the year after this. They were able to create their own property, and Lon Chaney became a star. And then, of course, he played the Frankenstein monster along with the Wolfman and the Mummy and Dracula. And we did a live commentary on Son of Dracula last year. Last year, we did 3 Dracula films. Dracula, Dracula's Daughter, and Son of Dracula. This year, we're doing Mummy, Mummy's Hand, Mummy's Tomb, Mummy's Curse, and Mummy's Ghost. Yeah, so they redressed this set a little bit, but this is the set from The Green Hell, which is a James Whale film. I think that was actually released after this film, but it was shot before this, I think. I've never seen that, but I want to... Some of those James Whale films are very hard to find, aside from Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, Invisible Man, and Old Dark House. Even Old Dark House is hard to find sometimes. That's a great one. We'll have to do a live movie commentary on that one sometime. I would like to do a live movie commentary on every single one of these Universal monster movies from the 30s and 40s, and then, of course, Creature. Great shot, reuse shot from earlier. This is their cost-cutting measures. I guess that's how they were able to make 4 of these, is they just kept reusing footage. They just kept reusing shots. They told the same story. They simplified the makeup. This movie was still over budget. Probably one of the reasons why the next one, which we're talking about next week, like the first 10 minutes of the movie just really recap this movie. It's like a Dragon Ball Z episode. Creepy guy. This is like the precursor to that scene in Reanimator. We'll be talking about that one in Horror Fest in October. So beautiful, I'm going to make you immortal. So creepy. Creepy. At least he's not a head. So if you notice, they kind of take the idea of, in The Mummy, Imhotep is the mummy and the sorcerer, right? Basically, right? That's what he is. He's both roles. He's briefly a mummy, moving around, very briefly, and then he's this like badass Egyptian sorcerer. In these movies, they split the roles. And they let Carice just be the lumbering mummy. And even though the love story is there with Ananka, he's not doing anything based on that. Like all of Imhotep's motivations were based on the love that he has for Ankh-Senamun. This one is just, they do something similar, but they simplify it and they break it into 2 characters so that you still have a mummy as a horror figure. Because that's one thing that does throw people back when they finally watch Karloff's Mummy, is they're like, he's not really the mummy throughout. I'm like, he is the mummy, but I get what you're saying. But that's one of the things I like about Stephen Sommers' film was that they did that. The dude that played the mummy, he's the guy that played Darkman in Darkman 2 and 3. I can't remember his name. But the guy that played the mummy, you know, he eventually regenerates and he's a fucking badass sorcerer. I love that. But I also like seeing a moving around mummy. Now, Tom Tyler doesn't get to do too much in here, but I think he's got a good movement. If we can talk about our favorite Jasons, we can talk about our favorite Carice mummies. And it's not Lon Chaney Jr. And I love Lon Chaney Jr. But the next 3 mummy films are kind of half-assed. But it's okay. A lot of these movies in the 40s were half-assed. But not all of them. Not this one. This one was quarter-assed. Or 3/4-assed, I should say. He doesn't care about anything. Carice doesn't care about anything in this movie except for those damn tana leaves. Yep. He'd become a monster, unstoppable if he has the rest of this damn tana fluid. Poopsie. It's a weird bit, but it's there. So he's trying to inject her with tana leaves to like kill her and bring her back to life or something. Like, that's a weird stretch, bro. Like, you're alive too. You could just be like, hey man, yo, you want to go out to dinner sometime? Like, maybe we want to do that. So they use this set from Green Hell, the James Whale film, which was set in South America. And you can tell it's got an Egyptian dressing to it. But yeah, like, especially in those exterior scenes, that's obviously South American. It looks more like that. It looks more like an Olmec type thing, like Central American even. But they obviously did some work to make certain things work better. They have the sun disk dial in the wings. Suzuka's about to get got, but don't worry, he's alive in the next movie, and he's the old guy that's telling the new young priest what to do. And then that young priest dies, and then in the next movie, he's still there as the old guy near death. It's weird. Here we go. I mean, he's dead. He is dead, dude. Babe shot him like, what, 3 times, point blank. I guess he's not dead. Maybe Isis forgives him. I love it, though. He's like, if you kill me, you're going to unleash a monster that's not going to be unstoppable. Babe's just like, pow, 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 motherfucker. Who shoots like that? It's like, I'm so confused. The mummy brought me here. This creepy dude showed up and said he wanted to live with me and love me forever. I have no idea what the fuck is going on. This seems like a mixed match of a couple of different stories. And the mummy's back. Paris. All he cares about is that damn fluid, y'all. The junkie looking for his next fix. So they did the eye thing there a little bit. Not as much as they did before. It still looks creepy, but not as creepy as it did before. Droopy drawers, mummy. The set, it's the same shot from the tent that always bothers me because you can clearly see he's no longer in a temple. He's in a tent. Come on, y'all. You think we stupid? Answer, they do. All I gotta say is that they don't really care about us. He's gonna go try to lick it up off the ground, man. That's a fiend. Need the tana leaves. Uh-oh. So he just busted the mummy up, and now the mummy's on fire. How horrible. Don't worry. He'll be fine. As far as she just passes out. They do this in these movies. I love it, though, that Babe passes out, too, though. I mean, that's pretty much the movie. It's crazy. It just happens so fast. So they burn up Caris. But don't worry, Caris is fine. He'll be back in the next movie, portrayed by Lon Chaney Jr. And they do a little bit of continuity work where he does look like he's been through a fire a little bit. So it's not quite like Frankenstein and Bride Frankenstein, but it's still there. So all 4 of the main heroes survive. We have 2 deaths in the film of good guys. And then we've got Zuko who died, but not really because he shows up in the next film. So there you go. The end. A universal picture. Once again, the players, everybody. Dun-dun-dun-dun. Tom Tyler has such a low billing because he's barely in the movie. So let's be honest, right? All right. Well, that was The Mummy's Hand. Overall, I like the film. I think it's pretty solid. I have a lot of fun with it. It's not perfect. It's not the Boris Karloff movie at all. It doesn't have the nuance. It doesn't have the creep factor. It doesn't have that expressionistic vision. That was pretty much all but gone in the 1940s. It was the 30 ones, the ones in the 30s that really stood out for having that really fantastic expressionistic vibe and tone. And Karl Freund was a big, he shot movies like, what was it, like Cabinet Dr. Caligari, right? He came from that school of German expressionistic film, and that's totally lost in the 40s. Universal movies. But they really captured it again in the very next year with The Wolfman. And we're going to be talking about The Wolfman in October on a Friday night for Horror Fest Live. And I'm excited. And I'm super excited. I hope you join me next week. Same mummy time, same mummy channel for The Mummy's Tomb. Really, like I said, it's an hour-long film. And they spend almost a quarter of it recapping this film. But I really like The Mummy's Hand. I think it holds up. I think it stands the test of time. It was a big influence on the Mummy movie by Stephen Sommers with Brendan Fraser, and even into characters like Indiana Jones. In fact, it has been listed that the character of Steve in this movie is one of the early inspirations for people like Indiana Jones. It's the same type of character. Anyway, thank you so much, Fable and the rest, for joining us tonight, Billy and Nick and everybody. We really do appreciate you joining us on these Mummy Mondays. We're doing another one next week, and I'm very excited for it. So, y'all, have a good one. Stay wrapped up. And the next one is Mummy's Tomb. Yes, the next one is The Mummy's Tomb from 1944. The Mummy's Tomb. It's a good one. So get it ready. And we'll be doing that next Monday night. Anyway, thank you guys so much. And don't forget to join us for Horror Fest on Friday night, where we're talking about all of the George Romero zombie films. I am very excited for this. In fact, I'm about to sign off and go watch Land of the Dead right now. Brooks is watching Night, Dawn, and Day as we speak. We're really, really excited about this. So thank you guys so much for your support of the channel and, of course, your support of Horror Fest, one of our favorite times of the years. It's the most wonderful time of the year. See you guys next week. We'll see you tomorrow for the weekly comic book review. But we'll see you again for another Mummy movie next week. Have a good one, y'all.